You're listening to Your Man on the Street with Wisdom's Daughter and James Mack on 92.7 WKRA-FM, your station for information and inspiration. This is Wisdom's Daughter, and I'm here with my co-pilot, none other than James Mack, your man on the street, and we have a lot to talk about today.
A whole lot to talk about today.
Byron Donald, for one. I never thought that in 2024 I would be sitting here having a conversation about a Black man making statements or even implying that Jim Crow laws were good for the Black community. And Reverend Al Sharpton is demanding an apology. We're also going to talk about Mississippi. The Democratic Party is calling for a boycott of the state fair following Andy Gibson's Trump rally last week. We're going to get into all of that. But before we do, we have breaking news. Hunter Biden, the son of sitting President Joe Biden, has been found guilty on all counts in his gun case. James, this is big news. It's another historical moment because this conviction marks the first time a president's immediate family member has been found guilty of a crime during their term in office. Now, let's just, preface that with Hunter's crimes do predate Joe Biden's tenure as president. So these crimes were not committed while he was in office. They predate his tenure. But this could still be a low blow for Joe. The timing could not be worse for Biden. So Hunter was found guilty on 3 felony gun charges. It has been determined that he violated laws meant to prevent drug addicts from owning firearms. The jury, which deliberated for just under 3 hours, returned guilty verdicts on all 3 charges, which stem from a revolver that Hunter Biden bought in October 2018 at a Delaware gun shop. The first 2 counts were for lying about his drug use on a federal background check form, because I guess he thought that he was going to be able to get away with that, but no. And the third count was for possessing a gun charge while addicted to or using illegal drugs. Now, Hunter Biden, who is 54, he's 54 years old. I mean, reading this story, you would think he was a teenager. He's 54 years old. He could face up to 25 years in prison and a fine of up to $750,000 at sentencing, though he will likely receive a lesser sentence as a first-time offender. Now, I would think that this is going to be problematic for Biden because the Republican Party, James, is going to be all over this. They poke fun at Biden anyway, his speech, his age. James, what are your thoughts? How is this going to impact Joe Biden's chances of winning the upcoming election, or will it have no impact at all? What do you think?
I think that this major news gives us an opportunity to really see what the response of the other side is going to be. It's been said, and it's been said time and time again, that the prosecution of the former president was a Biden prosecution. But because of this new news that has come out now, you see that justice swings both ways. Even though his father has the power and the authority through the Constitution to give pardons, he stated, and you can imagine he's a father too. The president is a father. And I'm sure that seeing his son in these terrible times and the things that he went through. And I know that all of us, if we really look deep into our family situation, we have some people that have made mistakes or may have been addicted to some kind of substances. So this even lets us know that no one is above the law. Nobody's above the law, and the law applies all the way around. And to see this young man successful.
He's not that young. He's 54. Well, no, you know what? Not. I might offend some people if I say he's not that young, right? He's middle-aged.
That's right.
He's middle-aged, 54.
I'm in my 50s, so I'm still a young man too, even though I have gray hair. But then you look at the fact of the matter is, what can be said now? What's going to be talked about now? What is the issue now with the prosecution and the guilty verdict for Mr. Trump? Now, the son of the president, this has never happened. Billy Carter, back in the 70s, when President Carter was president, his brother Billy got into a little trouble, and even Roger Clinton, the President Bill Clinton's brother, had substance abuse problems, and he had some things that occurred in his life that brought some kind of notoriety of shame to the family. How does the family handle a situation like this being so prominent? And again, the president has the power. Wisdom, he has the power and he has the authority from the Constitution to pardon those, and he has those pardon powers. And he said, no, I'm not going to do it. That's the shocking part about it. You mean to tell me that my dad has the power to wipe my slate clean no matter what happens? He can do it with a stroke of a pen, and he says no. It says to me that Mr. Biden, in all actuality, saying yes, I have the ability to do this, but son, you have to learn your lesson from what you've done. And uh, this prosecution and this guilty verdict shows America that the president really means what he said. No one, and I mean no one, not his son or anyone else or the former person that held that office, uh, they have no reason to think that they are above the law. And I think that this is a game changer in
I
the
commend him for
narrative.
that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do too. I
I
mean, can you
commend
think
him.
about this? Hmm.
Yeah, I mean it's listen, I can imagine that there's some level of embarrassment. I mean, you're
It
you're
is,
you're the president of the United States, but
of course.
Biden of course has been very verbal with the fact that he is supporting his son. He says that he feels, proud of the man that his son is, today, and he highlighted that a lot of families do battle with addiction, and now, he certainly understands, but there's a
He
certain pride
understands,
in seeing.
and
Absolutely,
he
there's a pride
understands
in
enough. He
seeing what you
understands
can
enough he understands enough to the point also that I love you. I'll be there to support you. I'll do everything that I can. But what I'm not going to do is use the office that I'm in to give you a pass. I
do.
commend him for that more than
I
anything.
I I commend him for that. What do you think if this was Donald Trump and it was his son and he was in the same predicament? Do you think Trump would exercise his right to pardon his son?
He sure would. I mean, this guy has pardoned murderers, drug dealers, and drug kingpins and things. Even in our region, where our station is headquartered, there was a person that had a commuted sentence from Mr. Trump. Kim Kardashian, she pledged to fight for this person's freedom and gave them an opportunity, and that person got an opportunity to get a clemency. And I think he would, of course, he wouldn't let his children go to prison and to be taken away from their lavish life of luxury, even though the president's son enjoys success in whatever he's doing. The president says you got to stand on your own and you're going to face the music and justice. And I think that that shows and sets an example for everyone. Everyone, listen, everyone. This president has said, look, you're my son, but I'm not going to give you a way out. I want you to learn from this. And hopefully, by learning the lesson that hopefully that he will learn, that it will give other people an opportunity to see that you, even though you've gone through things that you've gone through and you got the support of your family, if you did something to that degree, or if you did something to break the law, there is a such thing as called justice. You're going to have to face the music.
He
And
has to
after you
face he
face
has to
her,
face the
you got to
consequences.
face this music. Yeah,
Yeah, he he
yeah.
he has to face the consequences. I mean, I think that the fact that presidents have the power to give those a pardon, I mean, that pardon should not be utilized frivolously. I think it should be
True.
utilized for those who may have been in jail for a crime that they didn't commit, or someone who received a harsh punishment that didn't fit the crime. I don't think it should just be used frivolously. And I am glad that Joe Biden is standing up. He's a stand-up guy. There's a clear difference between when you look at the former president Donald Trump and his presidency, and someone like Biden. But speaking of that, um, even still, even with Biden being a stand-up guy, even with Biden stating that he's going to respect the judicial process and that he is not going to, there will be no pardon for his son. Uh, just the fact that he has been found guilty on these felony gun charges, just the fact that he lied about drug abuse to obtain a firearm, is that going to have an impact on Joe Biden's chances of winning the upcoming election? What are your thoughts?
I really feel that if America looks into the mirror and say we have a choice, and we have to be balanced, of course, but we have a choice. This a convicted felon, one that has been convicted on 34 charges, steps up to the plate and says, "I want to be your leader." The vulgar and the derogatory things that this person has said on whether it's in the press or whether it's on in a magazine or anything, or his overall actions versus this our president that we have right now that says, in spite of everything, even though I have the power to do what I have to do, I'm going to let the rule of law stand. I respect the decision of the judicial process that has been made. I respect the judicial process, of course. That alone changes the game, and it should put no doubt in anyone's mind of the choice that you can make. One, this person that sits there and does so many things that we know that would pull all of our hair out versus someone that has the temperament and the ability and the knowledge and the know-how of being a leader of the free world. You got to take your hat off to this person, because if it was my son, yeah, I might say,
That
okay, I'll give you
that's
a
a hard
pay.
one. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a hard one.
that's a hard one.
Because you don't want to see your kid. You don't want to see your kid in jail if you can
You
prevent it. You
don't.
don't want to
You
see.
don't.
No, you don't
Now,
want to see that
granted,
happen.
we're still talking about a man that's 54 years old, but
Hmm.
I do commend Biden for that. Now, according to Reuters did a poll back in February, and
Yes.
61% of registered voters responded to the poll,
Hmm.
stating that Hunter Biden's legal troubles would have no impact on whether they voted for Biden in the upcoming November election.
And it
And
shouldn't.
so,
And it should.
the polls kind of show that voters were divided over whether
Hmm.
Hunter Biden's legal troubles were related, were kind of related to his father's service as president. Would it have an impact? And I like those numbers, but I've got to tell you, just I think that this may be problematic for Biden. It could not have come at a worse time, because
Right.
I believe the Republicans are going to jump all over this. Look at how, when if Donald Trump is successful in running and being the opponent against Biden, look at his history. Look at what he did with Hillary over some emails. Now,
Hmm.
even though it would be, the pot calling the kettle black, right? But I still think that they're
True.
going to try to make something out of this, to say, you know, how can he be president? He can't even
Right.
manage, his own household or his children. I don't know.
But but
I think that there's going to be
but I
something here.
disagree with I disagree with that, Wisdom, and I know that we disagree at very few times. I say that this gives credence to the fact of knowing that this president, he has the power, whether it's his son or whomever the case may be. That how can this be an issue? What are you going to say? What did the president not do or do? Did he not? Are you going to get mad because he didn't show compassion to his son as far as granting him? He could have immediately, last night, if he wanted to, sign a declaration of pardon, and this would have been over. That I think that would have been a bigger mistake than having a bigger mistake. And I don't think any of it is a mistake by him not giving him a pardon. I think it would have been an issue whether he was, he's showing favoritism to his child,
Oh,
or
I
he's,
agree.
what kind of man is he? He talked about the former president, but his son is a dope head or whatever they want, a crackhead or whatever the case may be, and he has guns. I think, and I really feel that the president did the right thing by saying publicly, I'm not. Even though I love you, I love his son. He says he love him, and he's a dad. He's a father, first of all. And the compassion in my heart goes out to a family that has to deal with a family member or someone that they love that's addicted to any kind of substance. And he was on a free for all going downhill. This may have been the opportunity for intervention. Let's look at it also from this standpoint. Everybody that came in to testify were people and members of his family or people that have dealt with him that, one, I believe, testified to really say, look, Hunter, you need some help. And he needed some help. One of his acquaintances that he used to know said that he was indulging in his addiction every 20 minutes. And with any
Wow.
kind of substance, illegal substance, he could have killed himself. He could have overdosed. He could have done some of anything. And I think that the intervention of his family and Mr. Biden, knowing who he is, he didn't hide himself. He didn't say, well, I don't want to talk about it. No comment. It's a personal matter. He came out right. Listen, I'm a
It's
father.
very transparent. Very,
Yeah, I
very
love my family.
transparent.
I love my
Yes,
son,
very
and you love
transparent.
your son, and we don't know what could happen down the line. Not that I'm wishing anything. I got people I love,
But
and if
will the Republican Party still try to use this as a means of trying to discredit him? I think that Joe Biden did the right thing by
sure,
not pardoning his son and allowing his son to go through the judicial
sure,
process. He's a first-time offender, so he's likely not going to get a whole lot of time. He may get some time,
sure,
and his son is in recovery. They've stated that, he's
hmm,
still recovery is not, you don't just go through a program and boom, you're fixed. It's a
that's right,
lifelong journey because there's always the possibility for relapse, which is why they're rallying
that's
around
right.
their son. I think that's great. But do you
But I
think the
still don't think
Republican
that they would.
Party,
I don't. They don't have
do
a
you think,
leg to stand on. They don't have a leg
mm,
to stand on because what are you going to say? What is it that you can say that will give any kind of advantage to you? The man followed the judicial process. He was found guilty by a jury of his peers that these things he violated the law by falsely saying that he was not under the influence of narcotics or anything like that. However menial it may be, it could have been a technicality or he didn't know what he was doing or whatever the case may be. I think that the mystique of the matter is this: the president's son is on drugs and hoodoo. And if he would have pardoned him, I think that would have been the biggest mistake if the president would have pardoned his son and not allowed him to take accountability for the actions that he's done. You got to call a spade a spade. They can holler all day on the other side of the aisle or whatever they want to call it. You can say whatever you want to say. When it comes down to a matter of the heart, yes, that's my son. But when it comes down to me being the leader of the free world, upholding the Constitution of the United States, regardless of who I am or what my position is, I have to stick with the oath. And morally, this may have been the opportunity that Mr. Hunter Biden needed to get his life together. Yes, it's a journey that he has to go on. He has to, first of all, they say you have to admit that you are in that position, that you're an addict or whatever the case may be. Okay, that's fine. I think he got that done. Now the help and now the transformation of his life can begin. Republicans can say whatever they want to say. I don't see what they can say. What are they going to say?
yeah,
Oh, he's a
yeah,
drug addict. Well, Mr. Trump is a liar. He's a cheat. He's a sex. He's a SA person that derogatory comments that he makes, the things that he have allegedly done, the things that he have not been prosecuted for. But Mr. Trump has already been prosecuted and convicted on 34 felony charges. He should know better than Hunter should know better.
yeah.
I
I
say
mean,
so. And Hunter's
listen,
not running for nothing. And Hunter's not running for
right.
nothing.
And
No,
Hunter will likely appeal, so we'll have to see
exactly.
what happens with that. But we actually have
That's
a
true.
caller on the line, and so
Come
we've
on with it.
got official Dana J. Yeah, welcome to 92.7 WKRA. You're on air. Give us your
Welcome.
thoughts.
How y'all doing? How y'all doing? I'm a I'm an advocate listener, and I listen to all of your shows. And I'm listening to the brother break it down. and he's saying that the Republican side, we can scream all we want, and it's, yeah, I'm gonna go there. I know his stance and everything, and that's cool. But I'm gonna say this: you talking about the case that Hunter was just found guilty on all charges for? That case is a smokescreen case. What about the Burisma case? What about the case about the laptop, about the pedophilia case, and the one that his father clearly made sure didn't come or or that his son got prosecuted for? See, there's a lot you gotta talk about if you want to talk about the Republicans screaming all they want. No, we screaming we want fairness. And the same thing, if Trump had a laptop full of pedophilia and everything, and DMJ ran with, oh no, Russian collusion, why all of a sudden now? Okay,
we can hear you. Go ahead. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. If that laptop is Russian, if that laptop and was Russian collusion, hold on for a second, hold on. But they ain't had no more passive effects. They didn't have no more passive.
Okay, we need you to finish your comment, sir.
Yeah, we'll get back to him.
Let me answer him. Let me answer part of that. One, the prosecution or the original investigation of Mr. Hunter Biden was not done by the Biden administration. It was done by the administration of Trump. The Trump Department of Justice, led by Mr. Trump, brought forth these allegations, and Mr. Biden had his day in court. I don't know of anything other than what he's been presented with. As far as his business dealings, I think everything has been vetted and investigated as far as the ties to Ukraine and other things. Let's look at this here, sir.
Everything hasn't been vetted and investigated.
Well, you say so.
And
you
the
say
thing
so,
about
but
it, wait a minute.
Yes, sir. Yes,
but
sir. I'm
fact,
giving you an opportunity.
Okay, but I'm deep into this just like you are. And the thing about it is, Joe Biden made sure, but the DOJ actually, but he made sure Merrick Garland.
That's not fact, sir. That's not fact. I want if we're going to have a dialogue.
And we watched it play out, sir. And we watched it play out.
I can't let you. I can't allow you. I can't allow you to do. I can't allow. Listen to me, sir. Listen. I want you to hear. No, this is. I want you to know, sir. I want you to ask, sir. I want you to give me an opportunity to make a statement to you, and I'm not degrading. And you can finish your point. Let's make it very, very clear. Deal with facts only. The facts of the matter that we have before us right now is the President of the United States' son was presented with an opportunity to defend himself in a court of law by a jury of his peers in a court that gave him the opportunity to defend himself and also gave the prosecution the opportunity to present whatever evidence in this case. Now, if there was another case that should have been brought up, that should have been taken up then. We're on the topic, and I want you to stay on topic. You got a right to your opinion, but I don't want to get into a cat and mouse race with you about what they didn't do, this person didn't do. It was the Trump administration, Department of Justice led by the Trump administration, that brought these charges. It was given to a special prosecutor because of the status of Mr. Biden's son, and Mr. Biden being who he was at that time. He was a former vice president. He hadn't even gotten into office yet. So we can try to play this back and forth, back and forth. You have a right to your opinion, but I want you to stick with the facts, sir. Only the facts on this show. And I want to let everybody know, let's deal with the facts. No sensationalism, no conspiracy theory. Now you have your chance, sir, to complete if you're still there.
First of all, but I stick with all facts, but I deal with all facts. Second of all, third thing, but I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I can.
We can hear you.
Okay, first of all, but I deal with all facts. First of all, Second of all, the special prosecutor, but you're talking about is one of my former bosses.
You're breaking up. Say it again. I want you to say it one more time so we can hear you, sir. There was some static there. Go ahead, please.
They're
Sir?
talking about. Can you hear me?
We can
Yes,
hear
I
you
can
now.
now.
You're
Yes, sir.
you're breaking up really
All right.
bad. We can hear you now.
Yeah, because I'm driving. I didn't want to call him when I was
Be
driving.
careful.
But, okay.
Please be careful. You know that's against the
man,
law.
I'm good.
Be careful, though.
But I'm good. Trust and believe I'm good. But and the special prosecutor that you speak of is none other than the great John Durham. But I also brought for the Durham report. So I'm gonna tell you this right here. Everything that I speak of is nothing but facts. I've been waiting for this. So now.
What have
since
you been waiting
said that-
for? What have you been waiting for? Okay, sir, you. I couldn't hear you. Will you repeat what you said because you're driving? We couldn't hear you.
But I said I've been waiting for a Democrat, but to say that's not true. Bring all facts. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run a 45-day live and point out all facts that you said.
I want you to. Okay, let me again, sir. With all due respect, this program will not promote any other program such as that. And I want to be fair, and I give you a fair opportunity. There are guidelines that we have here and standards that I will uphold as co-host, and my host and our co-host will do, and our station will do. We'll give everyone an opportunity to express themselves, one, decently, two, bring the facts. I'm not going to challenge you on everything that you say or the comments that you say, but if you do some factual, unfactual things that are not factual, and you bring them to the show, I will correct them. Two, do not promote your platform of your. I know that you might want to. That'll be wonderful. I think that everybody has a right under the First Amendment to express themselves. There's the freedom of the press, and you have a right to do so, but not on this show. I appreciate what you've done. Please be careful driving, and we'll let someone else come in. We got other callers that are waiting. Wisdom, go ahead.
You're listening to Your Man on the Street with Wisdom's Daughter and James Mack on 92.7 WKRA-FM, your station for information and inspiration. All right, everyone, we're back. You're listening to 92.7. I'm Wisdom's Daughter. I'm here with none other than James Mack, and we're getting into a very interesting and almost heated discussion over this Hunter Biden case. And many of you have some interesting thoughts on how this might potentially impact the upcoming election, which is what we were talking about. And so we're going to actually pivot into some other.
Well, Wisdom, I want to say something. I want to say something, Wisdom, and with all due respect to you and to our listeners. I like engagement, and I really thank thank the gentleman for coming on and expressing himself. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm a one-sided person or we're one-sided. Everyone has a right to their opinion. We got that opinion, but I want to be able for everyone to be as honest as possible and factual as honest as possible, to give everybody an opportunity to express themselves. That's what we stand for here at this station and this show. And you have a right to express yourself. I like it because it gives us a chance to engage. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Wisdom.
Oh, no, it's good. I mean, he almost sounded like a conspiracy theorist to
a degree.
But
and he has a right. Everybody has a right.
Of course, it's interesting to hear other opinions and other thoughts. I'm not familiar with some of what he was talking about, but I will certainly look into it. In a statement, Hunter Biden said that he was disappointed by the guilty verdict, but grateful for his family's love, President Biden expressed support for his son in a statement and said that he would respect the judicial process. And as we stated earlier, if you're just joining us, President Biden has stated that he will not grant his son a pardon. Biden also went on to say that I am the president, but I am also a dad. He says, Jill and I love our son, and we are so proud of the man he is today. So many families had loved ones battle addiction, and they understand the feeling of pride seeing someone you love come out on the other side and to be so strong and resilient in recovery. And we wish Hunter Biden all the best as he continues his
We sure
journey
do.
to recovery. So in other news, Mississippi is in an
Wow.
uproar over the Gibson-Trump rally calling for a boycott of the state fair. James Mack has that story. James?
And it's an interesting story because on on Monday, the Mississippi Democratic Party called for a boycott of this year's state fair after Agriculture Secretary and Commissioner Andy Gibson held a support for the former president on last week. And Mr. Gibson also says that this event was hosted and funded by him and his campaign. And it comes in the wake of the 34 felony counts that Mr. Trump was convicted of falsifying business records to cover up payments to the adult film star Stormy Daniels in 2016. A Democratic press release was posted on Monday on their website, and it states that the Mississippi Democratic Party believes that this rally is not a gesture of support for Mr. Trump, but it's a dangerous endorsement of criminal behavior and corruption. And even in light of this event, they're calling for a boycott of the upcoming state fair, which is held in Jackson, Mississippi, in association with the Agriculture Commissioner's office. This rally was gathered together by the commissioner at the Mississippi Agriculture Museum, which is a state-owned and state-operated facility. And there's a great outcry about it because others have tried to use that facility and was told that this facility was not, could not be used for campaign events. But it looks like that the Mississippi Republican Party said we're going to overlook that, and Mr. Gibson is in charge of that particular piece of property and permitted it to happen. The Mississippi Democratic Party also stated that the boycott of the fair, and they think it is really ridiculous that it was brought that Donald Trump had the supporters in Mississippi to do this on state property. And they're inviting, the Mississippi Democrats are inviting everyone to come to the fair, which will happen in October in the fall. Also, I'd like to give the statement from Mr. Gibson, who is the Agriculture Secretary, the commissioner. He says also that he oversees all of these facilities under his banner and that he saw nothing wrong with it. He feels that the trial of Donald Trump was rigged and it was politically motivated. It's a witch hunt. He said that he held the rally. It was funded by him. And according to ads for the rally in support of Mr. Trump, they were played Thursday night by the Agriculture Secretary, his campaign. And this event was held at that museum. I got a problem with that because state facilities are not allowed to be partisan. And you can't, even if the Democrat was in office and had that office of agriculture secretary, you cannot use public facilities for a political rally, such as that, inside, being paid for by the citizens of the state of Mississippi. That from whatever side you might be on, whatever persuasion you might be on, was it wrong? Yes, it was out of order. Is it wrong for us to have, or is it wrong for the GOP of Mississippi to hold this this rally in its place? Yes, it was wrong. It was definitely wrong. The opinion is not wrong, but the place and the venue was wrong. What's going to be the impact of this boycott? Well, the Democrats are calling for it. And if you look at the demographics of this state fair. The state fair brings in over $30 million into the local coffers of Jackson, along with the hotels and with all of the venues, and it draws almost 500,000 people per year. No downgrading, no demagoguing the state fair. I just feel that using a facility to promote a candidate of any party on state property is wrong. If you everybody
Absolutely.
can't do it, and everybody can't do it. If
Absolutely.
I can't do it, I can't have my party and whatever the James party. I can't have my party there. Nobody should be able to. So definitely they're looking into it. And I'm just
I mean,
wondering, Wisdom, what is your feelings on that?
well, Chairman Sheik Taylor said it's deeply concerning and frankly alarming to see our
Yeah.
state leaders, including Attorney General Lynn Fitch and Governor Tate Reeves, supporting a convicted felon. So their issue is that they're supporting Trump, and he is a convicted felon. It's not alleged. He was found guilty. They said the time
Yes.
for action is now. We must take a stand against those who would undermine our democracy and the values that we hold dear. And so they see support for a convicted felon as undermining our democracy because, as you said just a minute ago, Republican Gibson stated that he felt the trial and the conviction was rigged, Donald Trump's favorite word, and a politically motivated witch hunt, which it really wasn't. Donald Trump got a fair trial. As you said, the fair generates more than $30 million a year in
30
tourism.
million. Yes,
That's
that's a
just the
lot of money.
tourism spending, as you said. And one of our callers said, wouldn't that hurt the local economy?
It
Some
it
who aren't
would.
Republicans, and it would.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
I mean,
it, it would.
you're taking away the resources that are brought into a when you have major conventions and you have major events that happen in cities. Those events in those cities, those events help the local economy. People that work, whether they're in the service industries or those vendors that are attending that plan to display or to display the things that they have to offer, the arts, the crafts, the cooks, the food trucks, and the many other vendors. They would be hurt by a boycott. And I think even though it's called by another party, doing that would really hurt. Now, should they not make bring awareness to what's going on and why it's going on? Yeah, you can bring awareness
Sure.
to it, but to shut it down and say, "Oh, don't
But is
go," or
right. Is a
anything,
boycott the answer? Is a boycott
no.
the right way to go to address their concerns about the Republic? It almost feels like the boycott is a way to get back at the Republicans. And I agree with one of our listeners, Penelope S., that it would hurt the local economy. Not, Mississippi is not all Republican. There are people of other parties. There are Democrats there. There are those that may be on the
Independence.
fence and undecided. There are independents.
Yeah.
There are people that depend on the monies that come in from this tourism. So yeah, that may not be the right thing to do, but I can understand why they would want to potentially boycott. And
Right.
again, I do agree with Taylor when he says that it is somewhat undermining our democracy, basically
And
to say that
I like to interject also that if you really look at what it's worth, it's overall it's going to hurt. We, in preparing this story, we did reach out to the Mississippi Republican Party. We have not received a official response from them, but I did receive a small response from Mr. Chet Taylor, who is the chairman of the Democratic Party. Although he did comment in the story, he would like to, as others have been invited, to give their viewpoint on this actual matter. And again, if you know anybody that's at the Republican Party headquarters, please let them know that James Mack, the man on the street, is looking for someone to respond. They have not responded. And I'm fair. Yeah, people be looking like you're not fair and who and this and that. I am fair. I want to hear both sides. I want to hear, how do you feel? And it's important for everybody to be able to hear the response. So, we can jump on each other, but if I'm fair, I'm fair. I'm not going to cut anybody's head off. You have a right to do the things that you do. And I would love to have a response. for this and other events and stories that are in the news. I like to hear what you have to say. So hit me up, as they say. Hit me up.
Yeah, well, we have a question from one of our listeners, and they said, can those people be sanctioned or fined? And when they say those people, I'm not sure if they're referring to those that are calling for the boycott, or if they're talking about those who were involved in this rally and using the rally to as propaganda. So
I can
those,
answer
and
that
I'm
question. I
sure,
can
sure,
answer
go
that
ahead.
question. One, the governor of the state of Mississippi was there. The attorney general was there. Other officials were there. And Commissioner Gibson was there. When the power is on the other side, who do you go to get the sanctions from? You can holler, you can scream, and therefore there's no checks and balances, evidently, with state government. There's no checks and balances. Who are you going to complain to? Who's going to listen to your complaint? And is it worth you complaining to those that are in power? Because I think it would be ignored, just like their response to this story. They didn't have to respond. They did what they had to do. And you can't go to the federal government because there's a separation that Mississippi is a sovereign state with a history, with a terrible history, past history of how they treat each other. I'd like to bring
So
this little
James,
caveat in. Yes, go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead, and I have a question for you. Go ahead, and I have a question.
Okay, I got this little caveat. There's a term that they used to use in history that's called Dixiecrats. That means they were the Democrats that were Southern Democrats that were in the Democratic Party back in the 60s, 50s, and so forth. And Mississippi was a Democratic state. Believe that. It wasn't until the Civil Rights Bill and that movement kind of shifted things that most African Americans were Republican. Why? Because of Lincoln. They felt that Lincoln freed the slaves and we owe our allegiance to the Republican Party. Isn't it amazing how things just flip over the amount of time and how
It's
people
interesting
shift?
how things can come full circle. So my got a
Yeah.
question for you. So
Yes.
are you saying that the people involved in the rally, the people that were
Hmm.
participating in the rally, participating in the propaganda, in the pro-Trump
Hmm.
speech and all that, are you saying that those people could not be sanctioned or fined? Is that what you were saying?
What I'm saying is those that are in power that have the ability to receive that type of complaint were sitting on the dais. They were sitting on the stage. They sanctioned it. They said it was okay. They felt that it was okay. My thing is, who are you going to tell? We have a minority in the House of Representatives and the Senate down there. Who's going to come? There's no statewide office holder that's a Democrat. There are no checks and balances. There was an attorney general that was the highest state office holder that was a Democrat. He's no longer there. That's Mr. Jim Hood. But I would think that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. The rules alone say that you can't do that. I mean, they were waving their banners and so forth and so on. That's fine if it could be equal. What's wrong with being equal? We're not being equal with the citizens, not just of the state of Mississippi, but you can see also that if certain people get elected, we won't be equal. Things will be changed. Who will we complain to? I'm grateful for the checks and balances, but we don't have checks and balances here in Mississippi. It's either the Republican way or no way at all. And I have
Now,
Republican friends. Yeah. Hmm.
one of our listeners said only the attorney general can file some type of lawsuit against Mississippi, and
Hmm.
the offense has to do something violating civil rights. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the Attorney General of the state of Mississippi was there. The Attorney General of the United States of America will not interfere with a sovereign state's decision. It. I didn't hear them say anything that violated the civil rights of any citizen. I didn't hear that, and I think that they were very careful not to cross that line. But because they're in charge in Jackson, because they have and hold the authority in Jackson, that's the reason that I said that I'm pretty sure nothing is going to be done on a federal level or a state level. You can't do anything. Who would they complain to? You can holler about it. And I haven't heard too many screams other than the chairman of the Democratic Party, Mr. Taylor. I've heard him. He's addressed it. But my thing is this. Let me say it like this. I'm going to go there and hopefully we'll stomp along. People need to wake up. Those that are in leadership, whether you're on whatever side of the aisle, have enough common sense and really look at things. Is this fair to the citizens, not only of the state of Mississippi, but of the United States of America? We got a real serious problem. And it's time now that we get to the point in our lives that we're going to have to make a decision about the very democracy that we live in. It's two sides to the coin. We fall under one of those sides. Either you're for democracy, for the way that it was established, or you're not for democracy, and you will allow a convicted felon to be the president of I've never heard of. You can't even run in certain parties in this country as a convicted felon. You can't vote as a convicted felon in certain places. You can't own a gun as a convicted felon. In Mississippi, there are people that have served their time on each, whatever persuasion, whatever color they are, or whatever. It's not about race or anything, that have served their time and did what they had to do to their obligations that they had to the state of Mississippi and the people for the things that they have done. And they cannot even get a job today because why? They're convicted felon. You mean one or two things are going to happen in Mississippi. They're going to change the law and say that it's permissible. See, when it's permissible for them, they'll change the law. But if this wasn't the situation, they'll continue to keep it the same way. The laws have to be changed for everybody, not just for a select few.
Absolutely. Well, one of our listeners had a very good suggestion. She said, well, her suggestion to rectify it is they should host Biden on state property. So
I agree with that. Let's have it. Hey, look, let's go have an NAACP party. Let's go and let's have the Fannie Lou Hamer Day, and let's have a Dr. King Day. They don't even kind of recognize even Dr. King here in Mississippi. They don't want to hear anything about it. That's a shame that we still live in the dark ages after everything has happened in this country. Out of all of the struggles that have been made for equality, I'm talking about equality. The problem that I see, Wisdom, is that the equality question. There's a certain segment, and I belong to that segment, and my ancestors belong to that segment, and people that I know, whether they're of different persuasions or different ethnic backgrounds, that have not been treated as equals in this country. Now, if we even the playing field, and we're going to get into some of that on the next segment that you're going to bring up. There's no equality. We wouldn't be hollering and screaming. We wouldn't be talking about voters' rights and equal rights under the law and doing the right things and everybody being inclusive. I'm going to throw this out there, and I'm not here to make anybody mad. This is just history. There was a time that African Americans and any other ethnic group that wasn't European was considered 3/4 of a human being. Outrageous. You mean to tell me I'm 3/4? Oh, you're 3/4 of a human being. One drop of that person's blood, you're considered one of them. What is one of them? This country was founded upon bringing in those that were from other parts of the world, giving them an equal shot at doing what they call an American dream. So I'm here by force. Even though I was here by force, I was given the equal rights as any other citizen to enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I'm we the people. You're we the people. All of us are we the people. We have these amendments in the Constitution that call the First Amendment. That's the first one. We have a right to free speech. You have a right to your opinion. We have a right to a free press. But if my opinion doesn't go along with yours, I'm going to dog you out. No, I'm going to use the facts. What are the facts? The facts of the matter is we have a candidate that has been convicted of these crimes that America says that a convicted felon should not run for this, or convicted felon should not have a job, or convicted felon cannot do a certain number of things until it's our man or the person that we're trying to put up. Now we're being unfair. Now we're being unfair. But this is the way and the system that they set up. Either be fair, America, or not be fair to everybody. I'm through
Absolutely.
with that.
And speaking of rights, there are those that may want to take us back and take away those rights. And we're going to talk about it. You're listening to Your Man on the Street with Wisdom's Daughter and James Mack on 92.7 WKRA-FM, your station for information and inspiration. Now, the Democratic Party aren't the only ones upset. Al Sharpton is reeling over comments made by Republican Byron Donald that seemed to imply that Jim Crow was good for blacks. James, how can a black man who would have likely been lynched or put in jail or worse for being with a white woman because Byron Donald's wife is Caucasian, how can he say that Jim Crow was a benefit to blacks? Help me understand. Make it make sense, James.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense, and it ties into what we were just discussing. Jim Crow, the Jim Crow era, the era of segregation, separate, just separate. They call separate but equal. I couldn't drink at a certain water fountain. I couldn't use a certain washroom back then. If I was then back then in those days, here in this state that I live in, and a lot of other states that we live in, how could we be live with the oppression and the I had to fight to get into the schools. I had to fight to drink at a water fountain. I had to fight to get a sandwich at a restaurant. I had to fight to get a seat on the bus. And even if I did get a seat on the bus, you sent me to the back. You treated me and you treated others that look like me. And I stand up and be the person that I am. I am a man of color, and I have no problem. I might have some Indian and some other stuff in me, or whatever the case may be. But so far, I've gotten the overall, I'm a man of color. And I, as a man of color, have seen my ancestors, I've seen people, my own family, my father and my mother had to struggle to make a living because of segregation. They couldn't get certain jobs. They couldn't get housing when we moved, when my family moved to Illinois and we moved into a certain area. We were our house was bricked and our windows were thrown out, and they wrote derogatory names that I would refuse to even say on the side of our house, but yet we persevered. How can a person of that looked like me, that ancestors been through everything that mine had been through, come up and say that Jim Crow was better for people of color? That is outrageous, and he's outrageous for saying it. See, they set the brother up. I'm just gonna give it to you. Can I give it to you straight? No, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I'm gonna let you give it to me, but I think he set himself up. Listen to what he said.
Yeah,
this is what he actually said. He
Come
says, "You see, during Jim Crow, the black family was together." This is what he said in a recording published by the Philadelphia Inquirer. During Jim Crow, more black people were not just conservative. Black people have always been conservative minded, but more black people voted conservatively. And then the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, Lyndon Johnson, you go down that road. Now we are where we are. Donald's mention of Johnson refers to increased federal efforts to fight poverty, which some conservatives say provided incentives for the breakup of families. And so he's kind of connecting the two. Leading Democrats criticized Donald's statement as lionizing the Jim Crow era. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York called out Donald's on the House floor, saying his comparison was a factually inaccurate statement that black folks were better off during Jim Crow. He called it outlandish, outrageous, and an out-of-pocket observation. And I agree. The Congressional Black Caucus, which consists of House Democrats, demanded that Donald apologize for Black Americans for representing one of the darkest chapters in our history for his own political gain. Now let's talk about that for a moment, because my
Yeah.
question, why would he say that, right? What is he getting out of it? What was the reason? Because I can't believe for a second that this black man truly believes that we were better during Jim Crow, mainly because, as you know, I said, his wife is Caucasian. He would not have been able to be with his Caucasian wife and live free and
Yeah.
live safely,
Correct.
without consequence during the Jim Crow era. And so
He would.
it's for his own political gain. He's kissing up to Trump, if you ask me.
He ain't just kissing. He all the way up in there. He's all the way up in there. What kind of? Listen, if the civil rights bill had not been passed, if equal rights under the law had not been passed, if those gains that have been afforded to us had not been passed, they would have unalived that person. He would not have an opportunity to be with you. Love who you love. I don't care who it is. I have people that love other people that may not look like them. And I'm saying that spuriously. It's not that I hate them or anything like that. You got a right to love whoever you want to love. Let me express that. It would not have happened if the Jim Crow era was continuing. That brother would be through, unalived, and put on display for everyone to see. It was a horrible chapter in our history that people are trying to hide. They're trying to hide it. You cannot, it is American history. It is American history, and it's ridiculous. Yes. Go ahead. So you got me riled up like this here.
And then we're going to hear from some of our listeners, but he attempted to defend his comments on MSNBC by stating he was not being nostalgic about Jim Crow, but that he was trying to make the narrow point about Black marriage rates and a stronger conservative identity. Now, during the Jim Crow period, he said he says the marriage rates of Black Americans were significantly higher than any other time since then in American history, and since then they have plummeted. Now, I don't know where he's getting his facts from, but let's just talk about it, okay?
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Listen. How can you say that? And my thing is this: there goes segregation again. There goes us. I love who I am. I do love my ancestry. I do love it. I swear I do. I think I have great ancestry. I think I have wonderful foreparents and people before. But because of segregation and the Jim Crow era, we had these diabolical people that said that they were superior over all the races, from Hitler on down to the southern races or the northern races or the eastern races, the people that says we're superior over somebody. We're all created equal, as I should say, and as our Constitution says, living here, we supposed to be. We're supposed to be, but it ain't happening. It's not happening. No. And this man, this person, I don't know what planet he was on or who duped him to the point. And I'm not talking about his family dynamic. He loved who he want to love. Somebody got into your head and told you that, the marriage rates when you were separated and you had Jim Crow and you had this going on and we were treated like less than citizens and called all kind of derogatory names and put dogs and water hoses and been cussed out and left out, even out of the political process, until Barack Obama came and ran for that highest office. Yeah, we had Jesse, we had Shirley Chisholm, we even had some others that attempted to do it. But it was not until that president was elected that truly everybody, no matter what color they were, and there are a lot of people that feel like we do. I love Americans, not the persons or just the people that look like me. I love everybody that goes out there and work that looks different than I do. I like the people that in my local grocery store and my cleaners. They don't look like me, but they are Americans. Okay, they're Americans. They work hard. They pay their taxes. They take care of their families. They're doing the best that they can. And here's this man, a representative in Congress. One, he doesn't, somebody said, and I'm going to throw this out here because this is commentary. I can say this. They say he doesn't even represent a district that looks like him. How did he get that seat? Somebody's behind it. They made a fool out of him in a sense because he has to look at his sister, his mama, his daddy, his granddaddy, and go on and on his cousins. So you disrespect and you bring down a whole group of people just because of Jim Crow. Oh, it was better, and I wouldn't want to. I'm the guy going back to the cotton field. I don't know about anybody else. I'm not going to be nobody's slave. I'm not going back to the cotton field. You're not going to
Oh,
put no hoses
we're
on
not
me.
going back.
You ain't
There
going
is
to hit me.
no
I'm not going
there
to
is
yes or boss
no
you or
no
nothing
going
like
back,
that. I'm
James.
not going to do it. See, you shouldn't have did that, but I'm going to just tell the truth. I'm not going to do that. And I don't think any other race of people or any other ethnic group should be degraded like that ever again. Not in the United States of America. Folks, wake up,
We have
please.
Olivia only. She
Go
says,
ahead.
does he realize that in the Jim Crow era, he would not, meaning Byron Donald, would not even have been allowed to be a congressman?
Thank
Olivia,
you.
yeah, I don't either he does realize that, and again, this is just a ploy for him to be what to get along with the popular crowd as he thinks it is. He's trying to get in good with Donald Trump, or
Yeah.
he's just a fool. Another listener said he wouldn't dare use the same type of comparison about Jewish people and the Holocaust. Now, there
That's
is
true
one
too.
thing. It is true.
Yeah.
And he wasn't totally wrong. He wasn't completely wrong when he talked about the rates of black marriage dropping and being, well, he said it was significantly higher back then, but he wasn't necessarily wrong about the rates dropping. Let's just get into some facts for a moment. The thing is, he didn't
Well, yeah.
state why. He didn't
All
explain
right.
why. We need context, right? So there
Right.
is some statistical evidence to support his claim about black marriages being stronger during the Jim Crow era. However, it omits a lot of important context. For example, the role of broader social, educational, and economic patterns. So the percentage of black women ages 40 to 44 who were ever married was about 94% in 1930 and remained above 90% through 1970. And this is research that was conducted by Kelly Rayleigh of the University of Texas and Megan Sweeney and Daniel Wandra of UCLA. Now, since then, those rates have fallen considerably to about 63% in 2012, but there was a cultural
Hmm.
difference back then. Now, the pattern for white women marrying has also fallen, although less dramatically, ending up with
Yeah.
around 88% in 2012, down from nearly 100% in 1930. And researchers have also found similar patterns of rising divorce rates. So between 1940 and 1980, both white and black women experienced large increases in divorce, again with a cultural change because women are becoming more independent. They're not as dependent on their husbands. They're at a point where they can support themselves, and so they're not having to stay in abusive marriages. And so for that reason, but the increase occurred sooner and more steeply for black women. This is what they wrote. Okay, so just to put
Why?
some of
Let
the
me
context.
now before you do that. Let me say this: why are we attacking or not attacking? Why do people attack and put in a category? Okay, a woman of color, black, and the white woman, and the suburban mom. What's the
I
difference
mean, I
in
mean,
those other than where you live? You have a
there's
right.
a
Listen, the cultural
there's a huge
change
difference,
that
James. It's not just culture; it's a
it's a
huge
different.
difference. Because
Okay,
white women and black women are not going to obtain the same
they're
jobs.
not
And even
equal.
if they did
They're not
obtain the
equal.
same jobs, they're not going to get the same pay. Let me
Mm.
keep going. Donald ignores
Okay.
the negative impact of poverty on families and the reduction in black family poverty produced by the civil rights enforcement and social welfare programs. And so he said what he said. It wasn't necessarily untrue, but he took it out of context. So black families would be stronger if the United States had less of structural racism, including lower
Hmm.
incarceration rates and more generous social welfare programs. If you look at the incarceration rate for black men and black women, it is significantly higher. And so, yeah, of course, you're going to see a decrease. Now, Donald
But
also claims that black people voted conservatively. I want to get to that point as well, because we're going to fact check him here. He also said that black people voted conservatively during the Jim Crow era. But the thing is, for him to say that, it's not really possible to prove through hard evidence. This is what the experts are
yeah,
saying. So he kind of
yeah,
made a blanket statement, but he can't really prove it.
he did.
Now, in the South
But
under
it ain't
Jim
fact.
Crow, right, because here's the thing. In the South under Jim Crow, most black people could not vote. So how could you say that black people voted conservatively or more conservatively during the Jim Crow era when under that era they could not vote? Okay.
And
Now,
the lie that they're telling is that conservative, what he means by being conservative is Republican. Just because you're Republican doesn't mean that you're all conservative. Yes,
right.
those black people that could vote at that time were voting in overwhelming numbers Republican.
I
That doesn't
wouldn't
mean
say
you're conservative.
I wouldn't say overwhelming numbers. I mean, there were some Black
In the
Americans who
South,
voted
in
like
the South, in the
oh,
South, in the South.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You said that there are overwhelming numbers of voters in the South during the Jim Crow period. No, if you could not vote under Jim Crow, either you had
Let me
Black
let me let me.
Americans voting
You're
or
exactly right. There, let me correct something. Those African Americans, those black people that had an opportunity to vote, and there were black senators representing the state of Mississippi before Reconstruction, before the Voting Rights Act. And when the Voting Rights Act was approved, the overwhelming majority, not the whole, of Southern blacks voted Republican. That's where he gets the conservative part at. That's where I have a disagreement with, because if it was so conservative, or Republicans were so conservative, then why do we have this madness that's going on? The reason
can we
being,
go ahead? And then I
yeah,
want to define conservatism because I want to make sure that
okay,
we're
please
starting
do.
with the same baseline. But go ahead, finish your
Well,
thought.
what I'm saying is, from what the representative is saying, that's what he's saying, that black people voted Republican. They did that before Kennedy, and they did vote for FDR. They voted for Eisenhower. Eisenhower was a Republican, but and because of the changes that were made under the Roosevelt administration, people cleaved to that. He brought us out of the war. He created Social Security, those safety nets that were there. Brought us out of the Second World War, and they fought to liberate Europe. It didn't really hit us until it hit Pearl Harbor over there in Hawaii. Okay, but along the line, the Republicans were in line. It were Republican administrations that were in line. Eisenhower was in line. He was the Republican president, but after him was John F. Kennedy, which was a Democrat. And because the civil rights movement was moving in that direction, and the Kennedy said, "We got something over here. We need the black vote." And because they got involved with the civil rights movement, that's why the shift from Republican to Democrat happened
So here's what the experts
in
are
the
saying.
South. In the South.
Here's
Okay.
what the experts are
What
saying.
did
They're
what they
saying
say?
that, just a reminder, in the South, under Jim Crow, they didn't say all, they said most Black people could not
Most.
vote. Now, they said there
That's
might
right.
have been voting records for the fraction of Southern Black people who were able to vote during the decades of Jim Crow laws, but this small group would not represent the views of the entire Southern Black population.
Exactly.
That's the first
I
thing.
agree.
Now, Black
I
Americans
agree.
did vote, as I said, they did vote up north during the Jim Crow period, but they were not living under Jim Crow. They also go on to say that a pattern of Black voters backing Republicans during the Jim Crow era, as I said, would not support the idea that they were conservative in the way that today's Republican Party is. So I said, let's define conservatism. It's defined as ideological movement or an ideological movement that emerged in the 1950s, late in the Jim Crow period. Here's the thing. In the North, Black people voted for Republicans as a party of Abraham Lincoln, who freed the slaves. So back then they had a reason to vote Republican. Now, Black people in the South, they would have been more, likely to vote Republican for the same reason if they had been
True.
able to. Now, today,
Well, let me
Black
make a
people,
correction. If I can make a correction before you finish that piece. They had the right to vote, okay, but the voter suppression of the South. Say, for instance, they shook up a bottle of soap and said, "Count the bubbles." They said, if you couldn't, and most blacks could not, or were not always illiterate, or all of them were not illiterate, but there were some people that could not read fluently, and you had to read sections of the Constitution and memorize them, and all these other obstacles that they put in the way that kept people from voting. Exactly, and with the Ku Klux Klan and the intimidation that they put up.
and
If you
literacy
vote, we're going to
tests.
put you off of our land. If you vote, if you register to vote, we're going to throw you off the plantation. Well, these people's livelihoods were at stake. Do I not vote and keep my house, or do I vote and get thrown out on the road somewhere and don't have anywhere to stay or anything like that? So it was a matter of survival for a right that was given to us as
Well,
citizens.
right. As citizens, we should have had the right, but again,
We should have.
Under Jim Crow, we did not have the right, and that's
We
what
didn't.
the topic is here. They also said
Right.
that conservative Black people are more likely to still vote for and identify with the Democratic Party, despite the fact that liberals of other racial groups would be strongly predicted to be Democrats, and conservatives and other backgrounds would be strongly predicted to be Republican. And so, and a lot of that is because of the Democratic Party's 60-year issue advantage over questions of race and civil rights and so forth. And so, you know, Byron Donalds is trying to make the case that it was better under Jim Crow because marriages were higher. He took that out of context. We know why marriages are
Yeah.
less now, but marriages are
Right.
also less in other populations. We got that.
True.
He's also trying to say that there was more conservatism, but as we've learned from the experts, that idea of conservatism was very different in Jim Crow
That's true.
days than it is now. And so he's making an argument that really has no teeth to it. It really doesn't hold a lot of weight. There's not a whole lot of evidence there. He's just kind of making it up. So I get why people are calling for an apology. Getting back
Yes.
to what one of our listeners said, he would not have even have been able to be a congressman during Jim Crow.
True.
So how could he say that this was a better time? Another listener said David Duke, former Grand Wizard of KKK, ran on the
Mhm.
Republican ticket. And then another
He sure did.
listener asked, what state is Byron from? I don't know.
From
I don't have
Florida.
that information on hand. Do you know? He's from Florida?
Well, yes, he's a representative of, in a congressional district in Florida. Yes.
From Florida.
Yes. And
Wow.
and you know something, I like to just a caveat to leave this part with you as we wind down this wonderful. I know everybody likes that we got a couple of extra minutes and everything, and I'm really grateful that we do. Let me say this: we have to really analyze things. If this congressman can say this with a straight face, it was better. It was better under Jim Crow for marriages and relationships and so forth and so on. People have not looked at the fact that back in the 60s, the 70s, as we were growing up, those boomers and so forth and so on, there were a whole lot of restrictions. The slums of the Great Migration, when people came north to try to better themselves from leaving, they left the South to come to the North and faced and lived worse than they did in the South, with the slums and the ghettos and the different things, when people had to apply for public assistance because job opportunities had closed up, or we selected certain people to get those jobs. And you couldn't have a father in the house. You couldn't have a man in the house. You couldn't have no relationship. And the welfare department find out you had a man in the house, well, they cut your welfare benefits. And they did not promote, segregation did not promote the Black family. And it was ridiculous. It really was. We had to stick together. We had to do the things that we had to do. And I don't think that, I think that, yes, I think a lot of people would love to be married and have a relationship. But as you said, the cultural shift is a woman saying, well, hey, I don't need a man for nothing. You know, I make my own money and everything, and he makes his too. And let's just be for real with it, because I'm pretty sure we'll get a chance to talk about that in future shows. But people have, things have changed. We live in, as they say, the age of the alpha female. The men have been taken out of certain things, and I'm not knocking any woman that's doing, and she's a boss. I love a boss woman. I don't have a problem with a woman in authority, or a woman that owns her own business, and a woman that steps out and make something out of nothing. I have no problem with that. Yes, I've seen the decline of families in general, because cultural shift, we have to deal with that. But I don't think that it was worse under Jim Crow. It was worse, the stress and the strain that families had. All you had was your family. All you had was that person that loved you and cared for you and tried to keep a family together and try to put their kids through school to make sure that they lived a better life than they did. I got no problem with that. But don't wrap it up and say that because that particular time and you picked Jim Crow. Why did you pick, brother? Why did you pick Jim Crow? Of all
He
time,
could
I
have.
could have said, well, the 60s and the 50s were good. Why did you pick? My thing is, why did you say Jim Crow? Four
He
times
could
in
have
his
come up.
interview, Jim Crow,
He
Jim
did.
Crow.
He did. He
He
could have
sure
come
did.
up with
Okay.
he could have come
Something
up with
else.
so many,
Something else.
other things, other arguments. Here's an argument he could have come up with. Now, I'm not saying that this represents my personal opinion, but one of the things we do
Mhm.
know is that because of oppression, um, pressure is what makes diamonds, right? And so because of oppression and the pressure, that we as Black people were under, that pressure produced women like Ida B. Wells. It produced other people, other writers. You know, I love
Okay.
talking about Ida B. Wells. I recently read her book. But when you
Wonderful
think
woman.
about those, absolutely, when you think about those who, Frederick Douglass and so many others who came out of Jim
Dorothy
Crow
Height.
era,
Dorothy Height. Dorothy Height.
absolutely. A
Yeah.
little known Charlotte Hawkins Brown. A lot of people are not
Charlotte
familiar with
Harkins
her.
Brown. Yes.
Yeah, she was an
Yes. Great
American. She
women.
was a teacher for the American Missionary Association. Other
Yeah.
names that you don't often hear, but it was Jim Crow was meant to oppress us by segregating us,
Yes.
equal but
I ain't
separate. And
going back.
so the whites only
I
fountain,
ain't
the
going
blacks
back.
only fountain, and so forth. And no, we're
Yeah.
I don't think that that's if that is Donald Trump's agenda, if that is the Republican
And it
Party's
is.
agenda, and this is what they
And it
want to
is.
do, and this is what they meant by "Make America Great Again." Now
And it ain't.
they've already taken away affirmative action, right? Affirmative action is off the table now. That's gone, right? They've already taken that away. If they really
Hard to hear.
feel that they're going to be able to take us back into a Jim Crow era like society in the United States, and that Black and brown people and others are not going to
Mhm.
fight back, they've got another thing coming. It will not
But
stand.
what's going to happen when it does happen, and Donald and that congressman, you got a wife of another persuasion, and they go back to the Jim Crow era? What's going to happen to your lovely bride, your lovely wife, and your children? God help your children. Will they be called? They used to call children of mixed race, oh, they're mutts and all kinds of stuff, and you're
Mhm.
all kinds of terrible things, mixed breed, all those terrible words that they did. What will you tell your children that your blood runs through their veins, about their history, about where they come from, when they look and say, well, your dad is not, don't look like your mother? What are you going to tell? I'm talking to the congressman now. You're going to have a talk long talk with your children. What are you going to say? How does your spouse feel about
Mhm.
having a man of color? Evidently, she doesn't mind. She married you. That's your business. But how could you look your children in the face and say, "Well, son, daughter, or whatever he has, I don't know what he has. It was better for people that look like me when they had separate but equal." If that's the case, separate means separate. You're separate from the race. That means you ain't gonna have the wife and the family. God forbid that it ain't happening. We ain't going there. I'm here to tell all those people that says that we're going to make America great again. Let me explain something to you. We're not going back to slavery. We're not going back to unaliving people just because of what they look like. I dare you put a fire hose on my family or my friends or the people that look like me, or put a dog or anything else, or try to intimidate me. I'm very intelligent. I can hold my own. I can do the things that are spectacular, and I can prove myself on my own self-worth, because you know something, James Brown had a song back in the day. They said, I don't want nobody giving me nothing. You open up the door, I'll get it myself. The door is open.
It is. And we've got one last comment. Clarence Thomas, you will have to get rid of your wife also, since you are helping with pushing us back. What a disgrace to our race. Yeah, I mean we need to keep our eye on Project 2025. We need to keep ourselves informed about what the plan is. And James, I think you should run for president. I think you have is just
Oh
as good a
no, they
chance,
don't want me to run
just
for
as good a chance
president.
as
I'm not
Donald
doing. I
Trump.
don't like the restriction. I like to go to the store by myself. I don't need nobody to be watching me or nothing. And
You
then
you
I
don't
might
you don't
like to
want
go
this you don't
visit
want the
people.
Secret
I don't
Service.
need the Secret Service and stuff. And I want to go out and stuff like that. I think that it's a noble profession. It's not for me. I like to stick to the radio, and
All
be a
right.
I'll be a commentator. But you can run. I'll be your Secretary of State or be your
No,
aide or something.
no, not
I'll drive
I
your
don't do
car.
politics, not for me, but you do
Oh, I
have some
like a
advice.
woman in power now. No, wait a minute now. A woman in
I
power
said
is important.
politics. I didn't say power.
Wisdom
I
for
said
president.
no, I don't. I
Wisdom
do
for president.
power, not politics. I am a boss in my own right, but
Yes,
no,
you are.
absolutely not. But
I celebrate you.
you do have some fans online, and so yeah, you can follow James Mack on
And
YouTube.
please follow wisdom. Uh,
Follow
yeah.
James at
Go ahead.
James Mack, your man on the street at James McCrae 6168 on YouTube. You can also find him on Facebook. You can find me on YouTube at iamwisdomsdaughter.com. Want to thank everyone for joining us today. We hope that you
Whew.
have enjoyed the
Yes.
conversation. We want to encourage you to vote. When they open up early voting, go out and vote. We need to make sure that we put the right people in place. And yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. So we are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking about a variety of topics. And today was just a hot topic with Hunter Biden being found guilty, talking about what's happening in Mississippi with the boycott, and certainly have to address this idea of Jim Crow. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you here tomorrow, same place, same time. You're listening to Your Man on the Street with Wisdom's Daughter and James Mack on 92.7 WKRA-FM, your station for information and inspiration.